Hello, welcome to the Podin Along podcast with myself, Steve Rastall. Another guest today, I've got James Lowery, a marketing expert, particularly in this age of digital. So James and I are just going to try and have a chat about how marketing's changed and how you might want to generate leads. Particularly, I'm interested as a business person. So James, could you introduce yourself today, please?
Oh, thanks. An expert's always a nice thing to be called. So my background is in search marketing more than anything else. I started in SEO probably over 20 years ago now, and then I worked in-house for a travel company, worked for an agency for 7 or 8 years, and then started my own business where I ended up coming across Steve as a client, which I think was 2013. I think you were client number 1 or 2.
Yeah, I think I was number 2. I think you had been working at Latitude, who are big in the agency, and you were running the SEO for them, running a large team in the UK. And then I think we were your first customer where we wanted lots of SEO and Google pay-per-click leads.
Yeah, it was an interesting time because I ended up doing like an 18-month notice period to get out of there, because the CEO left. And as I recall, I had my leaving day on the day of the Christmas party, hung around there until 10 o'clock at night, and then was in meetings with you the following morning, feeling a little unhealthy. But it went well. Yeah, so now, just coming up to 12 years of running my consultancy. I'll plug the name, which is Palace. So 12 years of that. Originally, I kind of started it expecting to do more interesting work around, everything I do is interesting. But the work I'd intended to do was around creating persuasive content, as I called it at the time, using a lot of slightly esoteric methods of writing and imagery to push users into taking a specific action. And I massively overestimated the size of the market for that. So I rather quickly reverted to doing what I was good at and what people knew I did, which was SEO and then paid search, and more recently, a lot more broad digital strategy and general marketing strategy, I suppose. As you get older, you get more strings to the bow.
Well, there's a couple of things I'm just thinking back on there, and it's triggered myself. That Latitude, and that was the agency you work for, and I think there's some interesting lessons there about how marketing can change. I remember a little bit in my head about why they failed, where they were getting the kickback off Google, off the paid search. Maybe just for the listeners today, just talk about why a big successful agency like them, and I think they were doing well over 100 million at the time, or getting that way for an agency, it was big numbers in that search space, and they went bang very quickly. What happened?
Well, they went bust effectively twice, but actually only once. They've subsequently been bought into a very large agency called Jellyfish, who probably 2010, 2005, 2007, Latitude probably could have absorbed them. But what happened was, up until the end of 2007, early 2008, Google had a kickback of about 25%, which they call best practice funding on paid search ads. So a lot of agencies were running deals with their clients where, rather than charge a fee for managing the budgets and the spend, they would simply split the 25% kickback. Provided you hit your growth targets every year for Google ad spend, you would get this chunk of cash paid each month. And you'd effectively not be charging the clients anything and crediting them back 12.5%, depending on what tier you were at. That got pulled pretty quick at the end of 2007, which, funnily enough, was like mere weeks after Latitude were bought out for about 56 million. And all of a sudden, people realised that there probably wasn't as much money in running search as there had been. But to be honest, I think what really did for big money in the search industry wasn't so much that. It was quality of analytics that came in around the same time, where you could no longer kind of hide behind non-countable spend. All of a sudden, your client knew what you were spending and what you were bringing in terms of leads, in terms of traffic. And I'm not saying that there was any nefariousness in the industry, but there was this kind of cloak of mystery that surrounded search marketing.
I remember we'd sit and go through that quite a lot, wouldn't we?
Yeah. But, it was, I'll be honest, everything I did when I was working with you was 100% transparent because that was, after the transition to honest marketing.
Well,
No,
yeah,
I
and
was
I
never a
remember, and
dishonest
you go
marketer.
through it in those analytics, and I think maybe some of that links to the rest of our conversation today, because I look at what happened. We do AWS, Azure, and Google, as you know. People like Microsoft partners, for instance, sell that Azure spend on CSP. They used to get 7-12%, and it's dropped and dropped. I think it's about free now for sending an invoice. I'm
Yeah.
folding the money, which I don't know how you make that work in the days now when interest rates were low. That's different. That debt goes bad on you. You've got a problem. And I think people who build business models on those kickbacks, we've never done that because I always looked at it and thought, it's not, I remembered that story that stopped us doing that. And I think it sends you backwards. So you link on then. And when you started and we were doing that, we'd run the ads, we'd get SEO, we'd drive the traffic, we'd convert the leads, we'd want 20, 30, 50 a month. And it worked to a degree and you delivered and we worked on that for a number of years. What I'm interested in, it's like that's all changed. You can't do that. These channels don't seem to have the growth in them that they do. They don't scale out. The economies of scale of that. Email doesn't work the same. Everything seems to have got harder in marketing, James, for getting leads. Why is that?
Well, I think that there's a few aspects to it. I think the first one is that there's more competition in almost every sector because it's so easy to set up a business to do something. I think in something like the cloud space, which is a mature sector now, like when I think we started working together 2013, I think, and it wasn't even a twinkle in Microsoft's eye at that point. I think they had some cloud, but they didn't have Azure at the scale that it's at now.
Yeah, Azure had started in 10. We started working with it in 10. But in 13, we had a customer spending 500 grand a year in Azure, and we were a top tier managed Azure partner on that. So it shows where it was at that time. That spend was significant to them.
Yeah, but I think what you've had, let's say it's 14 years then since that launch, you've had enough time for people to come up within businesses, not necessarily like iGroup and now IG Cloud Ops, but enough people who've come in with a degree of entrepreneurial spirit, who've seen the boss turning up in a nice S-Class and said, I'll have a bit of that, I'll set up on my own. And once they've got their qualifications and the Microsoft certificates, they can effectively build a business with a website and a mobile phone. So I think you've gone from a space which the search marketing was in 2006, where there was only a handful of people who could do it and do it well, to the situation now where everyone and his dog is an expert in SEO and paid search. Because there's so many tools around that make it easy. I think, so first off, I think that the market's probably become a little bit saturated with cloud experts and in inverted commas. Probably not a lot of commercially sensible cloud experts, but probably a lot of like techie bright people with stuff going on. And then the upshot of that is you then have this democratized marketing that sits alongside it, where all of these hundreds of cloud SaaS businesses are jumping into, the same number of businesses who are buying those services. They're all competing in the same ways of paid search, of SEO, with probably some LinkedIn ads, building email lists, doing some video content, all of that stuff. And it means that it's probably very, very difficult to stand out for number one, and probably very difficult to buy leads in a cost-effective way, part two, which comes back, I think, to saying that you've got a lot of non-commercially savvy people running businesses and running marketing, where they're willing to spend more than a lead is worth to get a lead in through the door. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I build on that, James. I agree with what you're saying. I think it's changed where, say, starting a business years ago, like the first one I did, being a techie doing that was probably a strength. I was a sales guy doing that, where now I think being a marketing and sales guy and being able to fix the problem that's got harder of the lead generation is a greater skill than buying the tech. where the techies seem to own the world and still do to a point in this space. But I think that balance is changing because the go-to-market bit has got so much harder. And I think when you're saying people will buy bad business or, give too much for a lead, where's the ROI? What's the lifetime value of that customer? How long does it take to get some money back out of that acquisition of a client? I think when you had a lot of venture capital as well in the space, people would borrow free, cheap money. The venture capital money comes off interest rates one way or another. They were low. That meant that money was low. That's changed. Venture capital space has changed. They could throw money at the wall, and it was all about growth. And then that lead generation, I think that fueled the marketing, fueled search spend, fueled SEO. People would throw it in, wouldn't they? And they weren't too bothered what was coming out. I won't say any names, but I know because we used to talk about other clients you had and what they were prepared to throw at a lead. And you thought, well, that's not economic, but they just need to show the growth number to the VC. So I think that builds on it. So there was quite a few factors that seem to have made the marketing go hyperinflationary in cost per client.
Yeah, exactly. I think, when you've not got a salesperson or a numbers focused person who's setting a budget, and I think you end up with people spending 2-3 times what the lead is worth. Because often, when we're talking about lead gen, it works back from customer generation of saying, I'm willing to spend X to get a new customer. So, well, how many people do I need to talk to in order to sell my service once? So, well, I need to sell it, 5 times before I get one deal, which means that I need to buy 5 leads to get one customer. And then, you follow back up that funnel of how many clicks do I need to get on the website in order to, get one person to fill in a form or make a phone call. And then how many times people need to search in order for me to get that many clicks, to get that many calls, to get that many sales opportunities, to get that many leads. And unless you've got tight control over every step in that process of effectively optimizing your marketing funnel, the costs are always going to get out of control. Because someone who's purely focused on the cost per lead at one end, saying, I'm willing to spend £1,000 to get a customer, don't care how it works, they'll spend that money. And they say, well, I need 5 people in, so I'll pay £200 a lead. I need 50 clicks to get one form filled, so I'll pay £4 a click. But not necessarily look at every stage in that, at pushing down their cost per lead, or, working on every step to make it more efficient. They just throw more and more money at it, which is fine if you're taking a percentage of spend as a marketing agency. You'll encourage it.
Well, yeah, you're incentivized to send it the other way, because I think another thing that links in the space, just building on a different direction, I'm talking SaaS companies now, hopefully that's what most of the guests are interested in, but generally I think it applies across the board. But people give far more away for free. So years ago when we were working together, offering a PDF would get you a lead, where now who's going to give the details for that? What the exchange has increased, as in the value you must offer in the free aspect has got to be real powerful and really buy somebody in, because a few reasons where, one, you won't get that conversion, and 2, you then build that trust through the value you show to maybe drive it into an intent lead of somebody who might do business with you. And I think that stuff's become more important because you need the conversion, because that traffic, those clicks, those intent people are far more expensive. And the loading of where you need to put that emphasis has gone. And so how would you build on what I've just said, James? How do you see that whole, the offer aspect of the old school marketing coming in?
Well, I think it's interesting because you go back and, like you say, you could throw people a PDF white paper that answers, a question that you thought of, that you thought someone else might want answering because it's interesting. It might be how to do X with Y, or, it might have been back in the, I suppose in like the SharePoint days, you offer a pack of something, a free review of their existing services. So there's always going to be some kind of transaction that effectively contributes to signing the business. But this is where I suppose we'll get into the AI aspect of that marketing journey a bit, is that almost everything that you start offering in that transaction is cheapened by how easy it is to get hold of it. So yeah, I want to get some instructions on, setting up my first VM. So if I go onto the Microsoft website, I'm sure it's got a guide there of how to do it. I can ask Copilot to explain it for me, and I'll probably get a piece of copy that's as good and as accurate as what the PDF I'd have got from a company that sold VMs 5 years ago would have offered. If I wanted to get a piece of analysis of my cloud spend, I'm sure that there's AI tools which take away the value that a manual review might have done for it 2 or 3 years ago. So I think in order to give that value that sort of clinches a lead, I think there's a need to be a little bit more innovative these days than perhaps there was in the past. There's a need to stand out a bit from it.
Yeah,
And I think it needs to be something more sort of personalised and authentic that will, I don't want to say buy people up, because then you get into all that conversation about business ethics and what have you. But yeah, there needs to be something which has human value.
I think you've hit a good point there. The fact of, people can do their research. They don't want calling. They don't want over emailing. They don't want to interact. And if they can't give they know if they give their details, they then might get hounded. So if they can do that research through the AI and get a lot of their outcome, the watermark has gone up and the value you have to offer now is a lot higher. Being a typical Microsoft partner, wanting to just deal with first line questions that are really, you can Google. I think those partners are going to find real challenges with that as you're going to go up, because writing a certain level of code, the AI will do. So the watermark's coming all the while. And I think another point, if I just lead you here, if I may, is that's all happening in the background and impacts the leads. Where do you think people are getting success then now and finding their way through? Because, we see people, we've got it, play, a lot of automation. You then can thrash the life out of that and burn the data you have, burn the relationships. And we see a lot more tooling rather than people, where we'd have had SDRs years ago to try and generate leads or develop those leads. And that's changed as well. And it's like the whole business we need, you can do with a marketing department of a quarter of the size.
And rightly so. I mean, I suspect that the answer that I'll give is the answer I shouldn't be giving. Because obviously my bread and butter is digital marketing, is providing people a strategy to get customers from, whether it's LinkedIn advertising, whether it's Google paid search, whether it's Facebook advertising, whether it's SEO or email marketing, affiliate, whatever it is. But I think when you're actually coming down to the argument, particularly in the SaaS space, and any high value lead with a sort of long decision-making process and quite consultative sale, I suspect that the most effective way to be doing it is through almost a conventional cold calling method, particularly if you're a good salesperson. I think if you're a poor salesperson, it's how I'm all PC with that, Steve.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I know what you're saying. There's certain things that have changed where you don't need the size of sales team. We do the sales now through the directors. Old business, we had more salespeople, more assistants to that. And the tooling means you don't need that quite the same, which has got a whole debate about creating opportunity and how that goes, and for us, though, we get a business that scales far easier without people, not just on our technology that does the job in managing the cloud for people, or most of that, as well as having true technical experts to do it, but just in the whole back part of the business operationally of developing sales, delivering, the finance, everything has gone that way. And we've really bought into that. So, yeah, I'm the same. I see it the same way. The other bit, you then link to that, you go, okay, so what's it look like for winning business? Is it going to go a little bit the web, but in the old way of a network of trust, your reputation, personal brand, founder brand, and more old-fashioned things that come back in rather than Do people trust reviews? Do they trust the internet anymore? There's so much BS potentially out there. I think people have got a fatigue with it.
No, I think you're right. So my view, right or wrong, I have made mistakes in my life. But my view is very much of the idea that a direct personal connection to someone when you're selling is of huge value. And the primary route to sale, if you get a form filled in on your website, that's great. It's a bonus. But all that's doing is putting one person to the front of your research queue. That, as a good outbound salesperson, what you're looking at is what the companies I want to work with. What do my ideal clients look like? How have I profiled the type of people who are a good fit for the business? So it's businesses of this size, it's people in this role, it's companies with these 3 or 4 specific challenges. I'm going to go out and I can talk to, 50, 100 people a week. Dropping in messages on LinkedIn, I'll get ignored 80% of the time. Sometimes it'll hit the right person, right time. And I can just start these conversations because ideally I've got a good idea of what they want and I've got a good idea of how my product fits in and answers that question. I think where the web presence comes back into that is, as you say, that's that reassurance that, I'm not just some guy ringing you up asking you to put all your business software in a mystery box in my shed rather than a mystery box in someone else's shed. And I am a proper business with people working for me and tons of resources and clients and, white papers explain what we do, case studies, client logos, testimonials, all of that important stuff. Because I'll be honest, I think 90% of the time with particularly like business tech, people don't necessarily know what problem they've got and how to search for it, or how to search for a solution to that problem. What they know is that something's not quite right, and they need someone to actually say, the reason why things don't feel quite right in your business is because, you've set this technical stack up completely wrong. It doesn't make sense. I'm an expert and a consultant. I can explain that to you, and I can make your life a lot easier. And then, go and check me out on the web. I'm real, I exist. I'm authentic. I'm on it.
I think that's it. And I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing because I've become more that way again. I'm a lot more careful about buying and spending on the web personally and business-wise, maybe. So just to round out, James, all this marketing malarkey, maybe we call it, or now there's all these channel search and the automation that's there, all these gurus you see where you can get 5,000 leads in a day if you follow their process. And it just seems more noise than ever and stuff to filter through. If you had to say 3 things that people should think about to get right, to try and make sure they see the right leads to the right people, what would it be?
Well, I think first off is always knowing who your customers are. I think secondly, it's knowing what question your product answers. And all too often, I think there's a lot of stuff that's quite woolly. Like, I buy SEO software occasionally and like digital marketing analysis software, and it's sold without really having a purpose. It's like, this will help you do SEO. Well, how? This will help you analyze customers. How? So understanding what your product does and how it solves someone's problem, understanding who has that problem and what defines that problem to them. And then, probably part 3, the most important part is to actually talk to someone about whether that go-to-market route makes sense. I think it's wrong to say you need SEO, you need PPC, you need to run LinkedIn advertising, because search doesn't work if people don't know what they're looking for, because you'll never be able to build a keyword campaign in Google Ads that appears for people if they don't know what they want, and you'll end up competing for stuff that isn't a great mix for you, and isn't what your customers look for. If you were bidding on cloud services in Google Ads, and I'm sure that what you offer could in some way be described as a cloud service, you'd be paying 45, 50 quid a click.
Oh yeah,
all day, every day.
I think Jack, who works here that you trained, I think Jack has, shall we say, filtered those ones out. But I think if I round up there, I think I see what you're saying. I think you're saying that who's your customer, who's that persona, know who you're selling to, that product market fit, make that in a clear way that they get it, and you know that persona's got that problem. And then you're saying, well, how do you find that audience? Which is that channel? Through the keywords, through search, through other ways, LinkedIn. How do you address and get that audience aware and make them aware that they know about you and you're not just in a little room hidden away hoping they come and find you? And I think the other thing I've seen to add to it, if I may, you've got to spend some money on this now. You have to spend more than you thought. And you look at the acquisition cost to the customer, you work out what that is, what your value is, what money you can get from that. You work out the affordability of that and can you make it work at that? And I think that's it. It's back to the old business piece. There's no funny money funding buying business. As somebody once said to me, they're just buying business, and maybe that's it, and I feel all right about that.
Yeah, I think probably you've got to go and earn that business now. You've got to stand out. I don't necessarily like talking about branding too much. I think there's people who talk about branding in a really intelligent way. Guys like Rory Sutherland, who I'd recommend that you kind of check out on YouTube. He's a really good guy from Ogilvy, knows his stuff. Very thin and elegant man, as you'll see if you watch his videos. But the like branding, whether it's personal or business branding, and making it fit the personalities of the people interact with in the business is overwhelmingly important. If you are selling a dull product, it needs to be something that customers are excited about. And if you think, oh, my product's dull and I don't know why people are even interested in it, you are going to strike out more times than you win when you go into pitch it.
So we can't be dull. We got to be a bit more exciting. Selling cloud and software, I think that's pretty good advice, if I may.
Yeah.
Give yourself a plug, and we'll. How would people find you to help you with their marketing challenges and lead generation?
Well, I hide in a shed in Lancashire most of the time. I have an irregularly updated website at capella.co.uk, which I don't think I've touched since about LinkedIn's the best place to look for me. I have a reasonably old photo. I don't like new photos being taken because I'm not as pretty as I was. And if I ever go missing, I'd like to be found. And that'll only happen with me in my 20s. So yeah, James Lowery, look me up on LinkedIn if you want to have a conversation. I'm sure Steve will give me a testimonial as to our work together over the years.
Well, thanks very much. I hope that's of interest to people. So myself and James will wrap out there, and I'll hopefully speak to you soon. Thank you, James.
Cheers. Speak soon, Steve. Bye.
That's now just going to upload your side, my side. It'll say we have to wait until it's uploaded. I think it says 99%. So it'll be catching up in the background.
Yeah. Uploading. Loading.
So thanks for that. I think that went all right. We were about 25, 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad.
I can't say it'll get you any business. I don't know.
Sorry?
I don't know if it'll get you any business, but you never know.
It's actually enjoyed just catching up, Steve.
No, we'll have to go for a beer in the new year. I'll speak to Chris and we'll try and set a date.
Yeah.
Maybe come down here. We'll have a chat about what we're doing, what you're doing, see if there's anything going. If not, we'll have a go out and have a drink anyway.
Yeah. You know me, I like a drink, Steve.
Yeah.
I'm not doing dry January next year.
No, nor me. And I think we should maybe go to like a Labour Party local meet or something like that, and just see how the land's going.
Yeah.
Right. I've got to go and do a school run now, so I've got 25 minutes to get there, which is about how long it takes. So if you're all right, I'm going to dart. I'm going to leave this.
No problem. Can I close this window down?
Just put it. Don't close it. If you just put it to sleep for a bit, that'd be great. Just minimise it. Right.
Okay.
Right.
Cheers, Dave.
Thanks, James. Bye.
Bye bye.